back. I'm here with my friend Jade Schlichting, and we're here to talk about some shit. We're here to introduce her a little bit more. She's going to be a repeat with us. Super excited to have her. She's great to talk to and has a lot of valuable stories for us. One of the things that I wanted to delve into a little bit, I am excited to try out this repeat formula for a bigger reason. One of the things that I want to accomplish in having these episodes is being able to learn why people are the way they are, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in doing repeat with people, I get to delve into stories a little bit deeper every time. It's going to get personal.
Very personal.
and you're one of them. So I'm excited for that. There's going to be a couple other ones that are going to join you in different days, but yeah, let's get into it.
All right.
So you told me a little bit about some of the things that you've done, moving back and forth, having different parents, stuff like that. Kind of the average childhood these days.
Yep.
So where would you like to start? What is something that sticks out in your head? Where would be like a main milestone?
I'd probably say just being a child of divorce and having to kind of go back and forth between different households, being ran different ways, and just sometimes being put in the middle, whether they realize that they were doing it or not. And I think being so young that the other parent's like, oh, well, they're not paying attention to, they don't understand what I'm saying. But in all reality, you pick up on it. You may not be comprehending to them and letting them know that you're understanding, but, when they're talking ill about the other parent, they hear that and, they kind of develop their own, I guess, picture of that other parent than what they should be. More as, like, getting influence from the other parent rather than just being like, oh, that's my mom, that's my dad,
This feels like something like one of the things I've come to realize as I've gotten a little bit older is something that you kind of look past, something that you just kind of get used to, or, you learn to live with, but you don't realize the impact until you start growing up to a certain point.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, shit.
And I feel like you'll definitely, when you start meeting people and getting to know like different personalities and different home lives, and you're like, wait, that's not how I grew up. Like, I thought everybody grew up the way that I did, because ultimately when I was little, like, I thought everybody had multiple grandparents and multiple like parents, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I only have 2 grandparents. I'm like, you have 2 grandparents? Like, I have 8. Like, how do you only have 2? And it kind of like hits you and you're like, okay, everybody does grow up differently, and then I feel like until you reach like an age where you really start to understand, it can just cause issues where it's like, well, I don't want to be, just like little petty kid stuff, but I feel like as you get older, like, a lot of people are like, oh, like, I've had like the same best friend for, however many years.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. For a long time, I thought a lot of that stuff was normal. I didn't grow up necessarily the same way as you, but definitely in a very diverse family. And it's super annoying for me to realize as I'm getting older, like, shit, that was not fucking normal at all.
Yeah.
So after growing up with it a little bit, did you kind of start to notice, even as a teenager, that there was differences?
Yeah, so, I'm trying to think of like what year it was. I can't remember. But when I was like 9 or 10, I had moved out here with my dad and my stepmom. And with my mom, I'm an only kid. So, growing up, my mom was a single mom. She, would have to go to work. Sometimes she'd work 2 jobs. I was a latchkey kid, so I was used to being by myself.
Sure.
Get home from school. She was like, all right, you made it. All right, I'll see you in a little bit. Check in on you, whatever. When I moved out here, I turned into the oldest of like 5, and all age groups. I mean, I was 9 or 10, and the youngest, well, I guess the youngest one wasn't born yet, but The second youngest, he was probably like 1 or 2. So
Which is even crazier. There was another one.
Yeah, surprise.
Yeah. Good luck.
Right. And so they relied on us a lot to help, babysit the boys, and help with dinner, help make sure that they get their homework done. So I feel like we took on a lot of responsibilities of that we shouldn't have as kids, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then the 5th one came around, Corey, and at that point I was 13 and I was a freshman in high school. So my dad traveled a lot for work. Sarah, my stepmom, I think she finally got into the nursing program. So nursing program is so intense, so she's studying all the time. So here I am, helping take care of the other kids and then the baby. And one thing I don't think that they realize is I took him everywhere. So we'd walk to the grocery store, we'd walk, around the neighborhood and all that stuff. And the comments that I would get, like, how old are you? And you already have a baby. And I'm like, it's my brother.
Right.
I mean, we look nothing alike. I mean, dark hair, complexion, dark eyes, and he's blonde hair, blue eyes, and they still be like.
But the automatic judgment was always there.
Yeah.
That's so insane to me.
Yeah. And I'm just like, so that transition was completely different, and I didn't know how to handle it. And then even like growing up, so I was always like afraid of my dad. So I was just
really?
Like, yeah, just because I felt like I was replaced at such a young age.
I see.
And I feel like nowadays, like, therapy towards kids, like offered for kids, is a lot more common than it was back then.
I would agree with you.
So, my mom, my mom is my best friend, so even to this day I tell her everything. So back then I would just cry to her and be like, I just don't understand. Why doesn't he want me? Why did he choose, like, in my mind, he chose Brittany, my sister, over me, which is my stepmom's daughter. So she's my stepsister. But I'm like, why did he choose her over me? Just all these things. But my mom didn't know how to. All she could do is like, that's not that he loves you. He didn't choose her over you. But I mean, no matter how much you reassure somebody, like, especially a little kid, I was like 6, 7. It just, I don't think we can't comprehend it.
No.
And so I think that kind of had a lot to do with that as well. And thinking back about it, it honestly like breaks my heart. But there was this one comment that my mom had said, and she's like, I mean, as a kid, I was a brat. I'm surprised I never got shipped off to military school with my mom. But I was always testing her, talking back to her, and she was like, I don't understand why you give me this attitude and you put your father on a pedestal. And I just thought about that. Like, I didn't really think about it at the moment, and I'm like, I don't know, Mom, and just like left.
Well, I think being that young, you probably don't even understand the full capacity of that statement.
Yeah. And
I think I probably would barely get it now.
Yeah, and it took me a while, and I don't know why I dwelled on it. Well, I mean, I'm an overthinker. I've always been an overthinker. That's probably why. But I'm just like, I don't know, until I was like, I want to say I was like almost 20. And I was like telling my mom, and I was like, I need to talk to you about something. And she's like, okay. I'm like, I don't remember what the whole I was being bad. I don't know what the whole situation was, but you basically asked me, like, why are you act this way towards me but not towards your dad? And I told my mom that, and I was like, I never really understood it until recently, and I want to explain, like, why I would act the way I did. And it was because I was afraid of my dad. Because I didn't want him, he's finally in my life, I didn't want him to leave again.
Right.
So I didn't want to sit there and, like, be bad, talk back to him, anything like that. Which, it wasn't fair to my mom. But...
And this combination of having to grow up and take care of your siblings, along with feeling unwanted by a parent, was all in your teenage years.
Yep.
Oh.
Well, feeling unwanted by a parent was ever since I was little.
Right.
But being added to having to help take care of the kids.
Right.
And my mom did not like it. She's like, you're a kid. Go do what kids are supposed to do.
Oh.
Like, so she was like, I don't want to say 100% against it, but she just didn't feel like it was right. And so, but my mom, I think at whatever point, I think that's probably like maybe like 10 or 11 when I first got my first cell phone. So my mom was like, okay, well now you have a phone, I can contact you directly. I don't have to be contacting your dad, So at that point, they're all communication between them stopped, unless it was like serious.
And we see having your first cell phone is such a great thing, but not with those words.
I know, right?
Not with those words.
Yeah. So, and my mom was just like, I don't understand why they're putting all this on you. I just don't understand. I don't think it's right. And, I'm like, I don't know. My motto at the time was like, it is what it is. Like, I can't change anything about it. I can sit there and say like, oh, I don't want to take care of them. They're like, well, you're the oldest. You have to. We need your help. It's a family dynamic. You need to help. You need to step up more.
It's so crazy to me that there was a point in time where, all that stuff stayed at home with a wife or a mother, and there was one provider in the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've never seen an instance where that's worked out without being a huge stressor. So having to grow up that fast is so, oh my gosh, the implications of that, especially growing up as a teenager like that.
Yeah. And I feel like getting to miss out on certain things.
Sure.
Like, not saying that I'm not condoning this, but like, like high school, you go out and party with your friends and just do all this other stuff. Like,
no, it's making choices to grow up by.
Yeah.
And
so I graduated when I was 17. So as soon as I graduated, I was out. I'm like, I'm going back to California. And then that's when I started partying and, doing like things I shouldn't have been doing. I was 17. My best friend was 16 at the time, but all her cousins were older. So, I mean, I felt like if I would have done it earlier, I probably would have not been doing it at that age. I mean, regardless, I shouldn't have been doing it at all. But, I mean, you grow up.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely something I can relate with. I have a completely different excuses, but I feel like the wild child I should have been when I was a youngster. But it sucks for a lot of reasons to not be able to grow up when you're supposed to,
Yeah.
And on that note, now I actually kind of feel bad about my siblings because I'm pretty sure they had to do the same thing for me. But that's wild.
Yeah.
So after you had that conversation with her, how did that go?
She was upset. She's like, she was upset because of the situation, not because of I dwelled on it for so many years, not because of her using those words.
Was she like offended?
Not offended. She was upset of the situation. She was upset that my dad made me feel that way.
I see.
That type of thing. My mom's very sympathetic. She takes on the emotion of things that she definitely shouldn't. Like, that doesn't affect her, but she's like, I just feel so bad for them or whatever. I'm like, Mom, it's not your fault. You didn't make the choices that he made type of thing. So, but she was like, I know, but I just feel like I wish I could, like, every parent's like, I wish I could take your pain away, stuff like that. But I feel like explaining my, like, feelings, I guess, to her at that age made her realize. And she's like, I guess I could have chosen my words different. I mean, you were a kid, but I'm like, I mean, it's okay, Mom. It is what it is,
Right. It's so crazy how everything can just get chalked up to your age, Oh, you're young. You'll learn to let it go or get past it.
Yeah.
That shit.
And I feel like
you guys are great. I'll hold on to this for another 10 years and we'll talk about it drunk. How about that?
Right? And end up in family therapy.
Yeah.
Or, big family fight. End up not talking to them for who knows how long.
We'll deal with this with alcohol. Yeah. It's no biggie. That's how you want it.
Right?
No, that's all good. But at that time, what were you doing for work? Or were you?
When I was partying?
Yeah, well, you say you had that conversation with your mom when you were about 20.
So at 20, let's see. I was working retail. I was actually a manager at Torrid.
Nice and stress-free, you know?
Right? First job and everything. I was
Yeah.
there for 3 months, and they're like, "Hey, let's bump you up to management."
Sure.
You know, I was 19 at the time when I took the position. I was like, "Yeah, cool." Mom's like, "Don't get stuck in retail.
Mm.
You know, keep going." So, and that's kind of where. So I was working retail and stuff like that. My mom worked retail in the same mall. So
Oh, goodness.
yeah, so it was actually kind of funny. So the FedEx guy or the UPS guy would come and drop off packages, and he's like, "Oh, what's your last name?" You know, I told him, and he's like, "Are you related to somebody?" You know, my mom used to work at JCPenney's. You know, somebody there. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's my mom." So we kind of like bonded over that too. But it was just kind of stupid, but it was just funny.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. But it was just how it actually kind of came about was I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was around holiday season, and you know, holidays and retail just don't go hand in hand.
No, that's a very chaotic time.
Yes. So I think we were both just having a really like stressful day, and like me and my mom have the relationship where like if we're frustrated, like we're gonna tell each other, and then if the other one's frustrated, it's just gonna go yelling, and then you know we'll probably end up crying, and then like, do you feel better? Yes. Okay. Do you feel better? Yeah. All right. So now back to the main topic.
Well,
You know.
you still got it down to a science.
Yeah.
No.
Only took so many years.
Right. How long did you work in retail? You said 3 months?
No, I was there for 3 months before I got moved to.
Oh.
Yeah, I worked
Wow. Oh.
in retail for 3 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done retail, so I don't have a clue.
A lot of being nice to people who are very rude to you.
I get to do that every day.
Well, there you go.
See?
I'm
Nobody,
customer service, I guess.
nobody likes seeing me.
Unless they're stranded and then be like,
They're-
somebody's helping me.
They're still not happy. You would not believe it. That's all right. So how did you find your way through your 20s working retail? Oh, you did it for 3 years, so by the
Yeah.
time you were done, 23, 24,
I was 22.
22.
I had just graduated with my associate's degree. I went to school to be a medical assistant.
That's when you started going to school.
Yeah, and then I graduated when I was 22.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So when I was working retail, I was going to school.
Oh, wow. Way
Yeah.
to add to that.
Right?
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn, you jumped into it quick.
Yeah. My mom's like, if you don't get it together, I'm going to ship you off somewhere. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to go nowhere else.
So school it is.
Yeah. So then when I was 22, I graduated. I was a medical assistant.
Mm-hmm.
I was a medical assistant for maybe about 3.5 months. Was not for me.
No?
No, after all that. But I actually ended up working for American Red Cross. So that was kind of the benefit of it. And I ended up with that job, oddly enough, because when I was going to school, we took a field trip to the American Red Cross, and I ran into one of my customers who would shop from me at Tord, and she would only shop with me. Like, she would text me and be like, oh, do you work today? I'm like, no, I'll work tomorrow. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow at 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fate would have its way.
Right?
That's kind of nice.
Yeah. So.
And you've been doing, so you went from that, which you didn't like.
Yeah, medical assistant I didn't like, so then I went to Red Cross.
Uh-huh.
I worked in the lab for storage and distribution. Basically, I got to play with blood bags and send them off to all over the country.
Sweet.
Or actually all over the world, because we sent a lot of stuff overseas too.
For testing?
No, for blood transfusions, we'd send them to hospitals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing.
I didn't either until I got the job. Oddly enough, I applied, got the interview, and as we're going through the interview, they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to show you. And I'm like walking, I'm like, why are you taking me into a fridge?
Right. It's cold in here.
Yeah.
You mind?
So they're like, oh, yeah, this is what you'll be doing. And then literally, like, you have a giant box, put the blood in there. I mean, obviously, it's more in depth, but put the blood in the box, put some ice on there, get your packing slip, put it in there, and send it off.
Strange.
Yeah, I didn't know such a thing happened or
No.
like existed.
I feel like it should be like a more of a commercial operation.
Yeah.
Nope. Just a lady sending blood.
Right?
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, the more you know.
Right? So.
And that's what you do. That's not what you do today.
No, that's not what I do today. I've gone through a couple different.
Yeah. We're not shipping blood anymore.
No. I actually left Red Cross and it was in California, to move back here.
Okay.
So when I moved back here, well, when I was at Red Cross, I was going to school to get my phlebotomy license. So, and the state of California is a lot more strict than it is out here.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. So you have to do your course, then you do an externship, and then you pay money to take the national test, and then you have to submit all your documentations, take another test, and then take like basically showing that you've done like so many like successful like sticks or like blood draws.
Yeah.
And then they evaluate and they're like, okay, you can have a California license now.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I got my national license in like December, but I didn't get my California license till May, because it took that. But I submitted everything at once.
Do you have that license out here as well in Arizona?
I have my national, but I don't have the state of California.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
No. Don't plan on going back anytime soon, to be honest.
I used to. I donated plasma for like almost a year, and I was asking them if they needed like any schooling or anything like to do that, and they were like, "Oh no, we just train them here." I was like, "What do you mean? You just train them here?"
Yeah. So oddly enough, I mean every state is a little bit different. Arizona.
They're real lax.
Yeah.
Putting the biggest needle I've ever had in me.
Oh yeah.
Like twice a week. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we just show them how to do it here, and send them on their way."
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie. I got very nervous when I've donated plasma like maybe 2 or 3 times. After the 3rd time, I was like, you know what? I'm very nervous. I'm not gonna come back.
Some of those employees are a little questionable.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of watching them, and I'm like, oh, and they're like, oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a phlebotomist, and they're like, oh,
I do this.
I do this, but in a hospital.
If you want me to do it, I'll do it.
I'm like, I can get it myself. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I just need you to push the button.
I gave them my left arm for the first time, and they couldn't find the vein the first time, so they stuck me like 3 times, couldn't find the vein.
Oh.
So I was like, just use my right arm. It's fine.
We'll just go back to Old Faithful.
Left one's a little sore. So I came back again, and I was like, hey, try the left arm again. And they finally got the vein on the left side, and it wouldn't pump blood.
Oh.
All they did was tell me, they're like, oh, yeah, your vein's too small. I'm like, what do you mean? That arm works just fine.
Yeah.
Go back to the right arm then. I don't know what to say.
They're like, let's get the bigger needle, see if it works.
And they always ask, do you feel okay? Are you dizzy? I'm like, I'm fine. Can we just move forward?
Right. Keep asking me these questions, I'm going to start getting dizzy and
Stop
getting anxiety.
stabbing me. Put it in the right arm. But it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So you get to stick people. Or you have.
I have.
Oof. Oh. No, thank you.
Oddly enough, I'm like, so I didn't think I was going to like it at first. So when I was going to school for medical assisting, we had a module where it was like 5 weeks of phlebotomy. I gave myself the worst anxiety attack ever. Because before then, I did not do needles.
Oh.
I'm like, no, and they're like, oh, by the way, not only are you guys going to learn, you guys are going to practice on each other. And I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, it's day 2 and you want us to poke each other. Have you done this before? No. Okay. And you learn together.
I mean, I guess that's the way to do it. It's the same thing with a lot of industries, but that's just personal.
This is a little more invasive.
Yeah, I would say so. Now we're practicing on sticking each other.
Right? You hurt me, I'm take it real personal, okay?
Yeah.
Like, this is for when you sat there. I'm just kidding.
No. You're lucky I don't know you on a personal level. That's crazy. Yeah. I don't know if I can... Oh. Ooh.
Yeah, so I was very nervous. Like, I was like, yep, don't think I can do this. Like, I was ready to drop out. I'm like, you want me to let them poke me? Did I sign up for this? Where did it say that in the contract? Like, the worst anxiety attack. Like, I would wake myself up in the middle of, like, the night sleeping, like, sweating. And it's because, like, I would be dreaming about blood and needles. Like, the worst anxiety attack. And, like, there was one that I was literally, like, I don't remember what happened beforehand and what happened after. I just remember falling, like, off of, like, a building, basically, and having a needle in my hand. Like, I'm going to get ready to draw somebody.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. I didn't want to look too much into it and be like, I just chalked it up with, like, my anxiety.
But you overcame it.
I did.
And you let people stick you.
I did.
Willpower.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think that's the more impressive part of it. Instead of running away from it, you made it happen.
the first time, this is probably gonna sound like a little like odd. The first time I stuck, like my classmate and got blood. For one, it's like a satisfying feeling. You're like, yes, I got it. And this is probably gonna sound a little weird. And then you're like, that was fun.
Well, it doesn't sound weird.
Yeah. So I'm like,
It's got to be pretty satisfactory.
yeah. And I'm like, okay. So then, it became my favorite. Like out of my entire like schooling, it was my favorite part. I'm like, I was telling one of my friends, I'm like, I think I want to go back and be a phlebotomist. And then right after school, I didn't have the chance. I mean, I didn't have like, I think the schooling out there at that time was like maybe like $2,000. I didn't have $2,000 on me, and they wanted it all up front. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going to do that for a while.
Guess I'll wait.
Put that on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back to get my phlebotomy license, and it was just like, I don't want to say it was like easy, but because I had so much interest in it, it just kind of, it didn't feel like it was school at that point.
Right.
Like learning. So, then when I moved out here, I worked for Sonora Quest for, I'm going to say about 7 months maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into the hospital setting. So then I worked as a phlebotomist there, became a team lead, and then I actually left that hospital, and I'm now a supervisor at Mayo. So
there you go.
yeah, it was a long journey, but got there.
Well, see, and are you happy with those choices?
I am. Because now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't know. I tried doing a desk job once.
Oh yeah.
So it kind of happened in the middle of COVID. I thought, I don't want to be in the medical field anymore. I worked in the office for 45 days, and 30 of those days I had COVID. So I wasn't allowed in the office.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. I need to be back somewhat interacting with people. I can't sit at the desk. I need to be like running around.
Yeah, there are some people that can do desk jobs. There's other people that just can't.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I cannot. I tried it for 3 months.
Yeah.
That was all I got. Oh, well, are you happy with the job? Is that something that you would do long term?
I think so.
Yeah.
I definitely think so, because every once in a while I still get to go and draw patients. Like, if there's a lot of hard sticks, like my staff will be like, hey, I need you to come help me. I'm like, no problem. You know, I go and I'll sit there and help give them like any of my tips and tricks that I've learned throughout the years. And they're like, oh, I never thought about doing it that way. So I'm like, I still get some of the interaction, but
See, that's fun.
yeah.
Getting to learn how to do things a new way, that's fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Oh. So, that's what you're doing now. And now we're all caught up on your work history.
Yes.
which is good.
I feel like it's an interview.
It is, technically.
Yeah.
Part of getting to know Jade, you know? And there's a lot of questions that I have. There's a lot of things that I'm curious about, but we have a lot of time to talk about all that stuff. But I'm excited to get to know you on a different level. All the real fun stuff, you know.
Right.
You know, like I said, going back, there's a lot of things growing up that I didn't realize were going to be a result of my past up until so recently. And I'm only 34, and I'm just now picking up on misguided direction, just feelings that you didn't know were there.
Yeah.
You know, and that sounds so redundant, but there's things from all the stuff that you went through that I'm sure you're not even aware of.
Yeah.
You know, you're desensitized to a certain degree to certain things, and it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a ball of joy to tear into.
Right.
But that's part of what I want to do here is get into all that stuff. You know, I can tell just by talking to you a little bit that there is a level of, we're not gonna say guard, but there's a level of, I'm going to use the word again because it feels right, but there's like a level of desensitization. Is that right? How do you say that? Is that fucking
Like
right?
being desensitized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that shit. So there's a level of that I can kind of sense. And that probably, I'm going to guess, because of talking to my siblings, that probably comes with dealing with children at such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of one of the things I'm going to go ahead and associate that with, is that you just learn to suck shit up and get shit done
Yeah.
at a very early age. So now at this point, you're just kind of, you got more of a fuck it than anything.
Yeah.
Well, that and between that and your job, because your job is not easy. Doing your job through, especially the last 3 years of this planet's life. Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree that, and just honestly, like adapting to situations and not, I don't say taking it too personal, but
I mean, that's probably
yeah,
correct.
I mean, I think that's the perfect choice of words, actually, now that I say it out loud.
And unfortunately, that ties into a lot of things,
Yeah.
you know? Uh, and learning how to, I don't even know if it's possible, but learning how to turn that stuff off in certain positions, I've learned is going to be a lot harder than I realized.
Yeah.
You know, being shut down to certain feelings after so long.
Yeah, so I feel like even though we say we're shut down to certain feelings, they come back at the most unexpected times.
I can see that. I can see that, and actually, I can second that and say probably some of the most unfortunate times.
Yes.
Not necessarily the right times.
Sometimes, honestly, it's the most shittiest time that
Right.
could happen.
You know, it's the times you don't need that shit to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's totally, you don't understand why,
Yeah.
you know? And that's the hardest part about it. It's not understanding. Because I got a lot of that.
And I think that's my biggest issue too, is that the way I think is, well, I overthink, but it's like I like to know the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why does this happen? Why am I doing this? And then like that causes me to overthink, and here I am, downward spiral. There goes 3 hours of my time trying to figure out why.
It could be a whole night's worth of time. Why?
Oh yeah.
You know?
And then I'm like, yeah. That's when I realized, I'm like, okay, just stop, step away, just go do something else. But like how you were saying, it comes back at the most unfortunate times. Like there's one like situation that I was in that definitely like reflects that. So it was middle of COVID, and I work graveyard,
That's right.
so that's already hard, and then COVID, and then staffing issues.
Gosh.
Yeah, so I would at times be the only like person drawing blood for the entire night,
Mm-hmm.
and still having to do like my other stuff on top of that. They'd work us long stretches, and I think as like a medical professional, we take on a lot of the emotion of our patients, even though we try not to.
Oh.
It comes to a point.
I can only imagine.
So I just remember this patient. I think I was on like my 7th or 8th stretch of overnight 10 to 12 hour shifts,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was already exhausted. I'm just an emotional wreck. I mean, I'm probably drinking like more caffeine than water, so that just adds to everything. And I just remember I was in my COVID gear, so my N95 mask, my face shield, the gown, and then your gloves. So you're having to draw. You're sweating because it's hot, and then
Right.
you're gowned up and all this. And I'm drawing the patient, and they had a lot of tubes. It was a little bit harder of a stick, so it took a minute. And I just remember I started crying. Not just crying, like I was bawling my eyes out. And the patient's just kind of looking at me like, "Are you okay?"
Right. And then they're getting unsettled.
Yeah, and then like, "Is everything okay? Like, what's going on?" I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what's wrong. The draw's going fine. You know, nothing's wrong with the blood work right now. Like, you know, we're collecting it perfectly fine. We're taking it to lab. Like, there's nothing to worry about. But I'm bawling my eyes out trying to tell the patient that everything's fine.
Jeez.
I'm in a COVID room, so I can't have somebody come help me. And I just like, I think I kind of like traumatized the patient, unfortunately. But I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, it has nothing to do with what's going on right now. And I had no clue why I even started crying.
I've seen so many instances of just raw emotion when they pile up. You know, it's almost like you ran out of room, even for that instant, for no fucking reason. And you know, to be completely honest with you, even in my field, in my line of work, I have moments, vulnerable moments, even if I'm alone in my truck, dealing with a certain accident or a certain situation, or it just sometimes I have to pull over. Sometimes I have to stop and think before I keep driving, you know, and
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it's like dealing with patient after patient after patient, and the implications of that mentally. There's so many brave nurses and so many brave doctors that I couldn't even fathom. Because I get to pick up the accident. You get to deal with the body and the damage that's done to that.
Yeah.
So.
And like how you're saying, like you can even think like how, like you see, like you said, like the aftermath of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd be able to see the aftermath of that.
Why do you say that?
Because honestly, I feel like one. I think. How do I say this? Just seeing everything, I think it is gonna hit more emotionally than if I were to see the patient. Because when I see the patient, you know, we're drawing like a patient comes in and they think they're having a heart attack or a stroke or something like that. They're gonna call it over the intercom, and we already know, rush there, get the blood. Your adrenaline kind of kicks in, and the first thing that you think is like, okay, you know, like if I was in trouble patient, tourniquet, alcohol, you know, wipe everything out, just go in that order, and then okay, this is this, all right, label it, and then out. Let the next people who need to get in, get in, rush it down, and you know, okay, we hand it off to the next person, and it's like, you know, kind of like a, okay, next in line type of thing. But we also kind of get updates, because it's like in the lab, okay, we have the blood, okay, there's a critical, we have to call the nurse, let the patient know what's going on. So it's like every so often we're going to get an update, or you know, the nurse is calling, hey, you know, I wanted to recheck this, can you come send someone down? So it's like, where if it was the aftermath, like how you're saying what you see, like what happened to what happened here, what happened, you know, are they okay, where are they at?
You know, that's definitely part of one of my personal struggles, is not knowing. And sometimes I'll talk to like the police or whoever's on scene, and they'll tell me a little bit about what happened. If it was a fatal, we know almost immediately, which is even worse, because then you know what you're driving up. Well, I shouldn't say that. See, this is that desensitization that I'm talking about. I don't like it personally, but I can see where that would be a little bit more affecting in a way. Not knowing definitely plays a part. There's been, just as an example, a few instances of like I think one that sticks out is like a rollover. I get to a rollover and I have to roll the car back over, and a car seat falls out of the back seat.
Oh my gosh.
And like your first thought is like, fuck.
My heart just sank right now just hearing that.
Yeah, and it always makes me stop for a second. And I, like, probably 9 times out of 10, I'll ask the cop, like, hey, where's the fucking kid?
Yeah.
Is the kid good? You know, yeah, you just gotta know. I don't know. It's like a personal effect. It's like an emotional, when there's kids involved, especially, or, yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
But I can't, I don't know. I guess it's, we could switch the role a little bit, because like I told you, I've been a mechanic for so long. You're a mechanic too. You're just a mechanic for humans.
I guess I never thought of it that way, actually. That's kind of weird.
One of my friends brought that up to me a while back. You know, she's a doctor as well, one of my friend's wives. And she said the same thing. She said, I'm a mechanic, you know, I'm just a mechanic for the human body. I was like, that's a fucking crazy way to look at it.
That really is, because, yeah.
So I treat the cars the same way that you treat the bodies.
That makes sense.
You know?
I never thought of it that way.
It's pretty crazy to think about.
It is.
And it kind of helps, I guess, a little bit lessen the personal effect. Which I guess it doesn't really need to, because you're already there.
Yeah.
You know? But.
So, I have a question. So, you know how you say, like, oh, you know, when you get the calls, when you guys go, like, for if it's like a fatality or anything like that, do you know before you arrive on the scene, or will they, when they give you the call, basically be like, hey, this has happened, there's a fatality when you show up, or is it you show up and you're unknowing until you get out of the truck and, you know, touch base with someone, they're like, hey, yeah, this happened, it was a fatality. So, or does it just kind of depend case to case?
No. If it's for sure a fatality and there's a body on scene, for one, I'm sure you've seen traffic close down for a half a mile all the way around. That's a thing. But if there's a dead person on scene, we know about it beforehand.
Okay.
100%. If it has anything to do with getting a body out, we know about it. And if it's, I mean, those are really the only two instances we know if it's what we're walking into. Is if we have to help get a body out, or if there's already somebody that passed away. Other than that, it's anybody's guess. The only other things that we are aware of is like, well, I guess I would still be considered a fatal, but like, since working with the police and stuff like that, we deal with suicides,
Oh wow.
which is difficult to say the least.
Yeah.
Say the least. But again, same idea, fatal. Those, I don't know. It sucks to come up on that scene. It puts a dark cloud over you. Well, for me, it does anyway. But not knowing kind of hurts a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where I've seen guys getting worked on the side of the street.
Yeah.
You know, paramedics and just getting shit done. They're trying to save his life right then and there, and that's almost fucking. I'm like, I don't want to see this, dude.
Yeah.
But that's why my perspective is a world apart from yours, and I don't understand how, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my brain around it right now too, and I'm like, it's just kind
two
of
completely different ends of it with two different emotions.
but yet a lot of similarities too, though.
A wholehearted amount of similarities that are, yeah, I don't know. That's pretty amazing to me.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's definitely difficult, and one of the things you become a little bit more aware of the people that are a little bit more guarded because they make jokes about it so often.
I will say I am guilty of that.
Yeah.
I take that back. I'm guilty of trying to play off something that's a little bit more serious in regards to my own life, not when it's like other people's. So, and I think it's just a coping mechanism, to be honest.
No, it's totally reasonable. I'm being an asshole when I say like I don't like it. I just don't like it. It's just something I kind of have developed a different skin for. I just don't talk about it. And some of the guys that I work with are like, you know, they'll all be joking. I have to fake laugh and shit. I have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I just don't talk about it. That's my own personal thing. I'm not sure why. I don't really have a coping mechanism. I just don't talk.
I used to be that way.
Yeah.
And it did not work out for me.
It doesn't work for a lot of people.
Yeah. I got very angry, very aggressive. I was mean. I got into a lot of fights.
I mean, when it comes down to it, what I'm doing is really just bottling up how I actually feel.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not coping. I'm not letting anything out.
I would do the same thing, and I'd be like, oh, I'm fine.
It doesn't work that way.
No, and then you pop off, and you're like, what happened? And it's like, you spilt your milk on the counter, and
I lost my shit.
Yeah. Like, I don't understand. Be like, I don't either.
That random outburst of tears?
Oh, yeah.
Just from being quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I understand that now. Luckily, there is a few outlets that I, we're able to have. But for the most part, yeah.
I feel like it's the easier route to go down.
Being quiet?
Yes, and not talking about it.
It's a little bit different.
Well, I wouldn't say easier. So in regards to me, I feel like it was easier for me because I didn't have to face what I was actually feeling. If that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. That's definitely, yeah. It's similar. I mean, we're going down the same hallway here.
Yeah.
One of the things, and this is actually one of the perspectives that I'm super interested to talk with you about, is having this could bring on a lot of heat, and I don't mean for it to, not from you, but in general. And I definitely don't mean for this to be like any kind of misogyny or anything like that. But in my industry, it's primarily males. Like, I think the only 2 females work in the office. It's just a given, or at least I think it should be. I work with a bunch of dudes that have been doing this, and working in a male-ruled industry, if I were to want to explore how I actually felt, do you know the backlash that comes with that?
I do not, because I'm
You
not
don't.
a male in your industry.
So, like being in like a masculine industry, you try to express how you actually feel, whether it's finding a dead body in a car or the fact that you fucking crushed your arm or whatever it is, you know,
Mhm.
any form of sensitivity. I shouldn't say any form, but most forms of sensitivity are like you're automatically just a pussy. You know,
Yeah.
you're just being a bitch. It's that whole thing, and that's a whole nother topic. But it's a whole other side of this that I'm pretty fucking sick of.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of leads me down this path. I think that's why I'm pushing so hard for this to become a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily sitting here telling you that I think that everybody should just be able to say how they feel all the time. But I definitely don't think you should be able to fucking hide it all the time either.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place for everything,
Yeah.
and I just think it doesn't like I'm not like butthurt about it by any means. It's kind of fucking annoying.
I could see that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's sometimes that I just want to be able to say what I want to say and I want to conversate about what I want to talk about without your fucking stupid remark.
Or everybody having their own opinion.
Yeah.
Getting put in.
Yeah,
your,
like I could just deal without your dumb shit right now.
Yeah. You're like, I'm just trying to vent for a
Yeah.
second just to clear my mind for at least a good 10 minutes.
I know it's cool that you think everybody else is a pussy, but we're fine. So I guess I can't speak on that note. How it would be. What is it? Would it be any easier? I know that being around, being a female in a female crowd, I've learned over the years is sometimes a difficult task because of all the emotions.
Yes.
So is that accurate?
Yeah.
Which is fine. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Everybody can have their own different emotion and be at 100.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, females are a little more emotional. You say the wrong thing and the world's going to end.
Mm. And that even happens with female on female interaction.
Oh, yeah. Like, and I don't honestly know, like, I can't break it down. It's like, why are we like this? Like, why are females like this? And, like, some of them are, like, some of us are so judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know who you are. I don't know your story.
Mm-hmm.
But here I am in the back of my mind creating your story for you
Right.
of what I think you're going through.
Right. In my mind, you're a fucking serial killer.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're like, no. I just work at the bookstore down the street, you know?
I mean, that's not a female thing. We're for sure guilty.
Yeah.
We just don't talk about it as much.
Yeah. And I think females, I don't want to say just females because I feel like anybody, honestly, but if there's something going on in their life, they would like to deflect it and put the spotlight on somebody else. It's like, oh my gosh, did you hear so and so are going through this or going through that? And that's when the gossip starts.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I just think it's another form of deflection, to be honest.
Well, I wouldn't. That's another thing. I definitely wouldn't convert into just females.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of everybody.
I can see. I mean, in that note, there's a lot of dudes that have been in and out of my life that I would call them females just for doing that.
Yeah.
That's so wrong. I shouldn't even say that. But
I get what you mean because typically they stereotype it to be like a female.
definitely stereotype.
Yeah.
But I say things are a lot different in this day and age, and people are definitely a lot more equal as far as actions, wants, needs. Everybody wants to be the same and equal and shit like that.
Yep.
But that's probably not a whole lot of stuff we're going to get into. But that's okay. Well, I think we've delved into enough to get to know Jade a little bit. And we have a lot more to talk about.
Yes.
A lot of topics. I'm excited to have you on again, like I said, for one, good conversation. For two, the female perspective is going to be huge to what we're trying to accomplish here. I
agree.
So I'm excited to have you on more and more times.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. You're episode 2.
Ooh.
Number 2 recorded.
There we go.
So, with a lot more to come. I appreciate you coming in.
Of course. Thanks for inviting me.
And we'll be back with more exciting stories on Me vs. Me. If you want any information on becoming a guest on Me vs. Me podcast, feel free to email me vs. Me info at gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and dabble a little bit in TikTok. So feel free to reach out whatever platform you want, and we'll get back to you. Thanks, everybody.